Welcome, beautiful beings of divine light, to the Luminary Podcast. I am your host, Annie Perry. I am a professional psychic channel, spirituality teacher, multidimensional being just like you. What you are about to experience and receive is a fully channeled interview with the Pleiadian Council of Light. The Pleiadian Council of Light is critical to the Galactic Federation of Light's work and to the protection and security of Earth. This is just the first in a new series where I will be channeling different beings of light throughout our universe, and our new regular co-host, Alicia Bryan, will be performing the interview. Alicia has a list of all the different beings that I channel, and she has free reign to choose whoever she feels called to select. I know about it about 1 to 2 days in advance so that they can start attuning to my energy, but I do not know any of the questions before the interview. I go in completely blind and I allow everything to come through in a pure stream of consciousness. Now, the way that I channel is important. I do not have a being enter into my body. Instead, I reach deeply inside of myself and I pull on the thread of me that is connected to them, because all is one. If you'd like to experience more of these interviews, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And after you listen to this interview, I would love to know what kinds of questions you would ask the Pleiadian Council of Light, because your question might get answered in a future interview by them personally. So without further ado, we are welcoming in the Pleiadian Council of Light and our new co-host, Alicia Bryan. But Alicia, I'm so excited to have you here. For those who do not know Alicia, and there are some in the audience who do know Alicia, who know her very, very well, but for those who don't, Alicia is an incredible Pleiadian starseed. She is from the Orion system. She lived through all of the Orion Wars. She made her way to Earth with her soul family. And somewhere along the way, we must have met in some past lifetime, because when we met in this lifetime, it was a very instant connection. It was pretty immediate. And Alicia was one of my first clients ever for my channeled energy readings. I still remember the message you sent me on Instagram. It was like, I feel so drawn to you. I know that I need to have one of these sessions. It was something like that. And you like immediately booked that session with me. It must have been within the first 2 weeks of me starting to do readings. And you were my first private client ever. And I will never forget all the time that we spent together learning, talking about things. And since then, which was 2 years ago, you have gone on to manifest this just incredible, beautiful life in New York. I love looking at all of your photos, especially like the fall foliage and like all of the things you guys get to do in New England that I miss so much. But I absolutely love it. And I'm just so excited for you to be in this role as the interviewer. And I do want to share that when this idea came to me, which was about 6 months ago, I asked my guides, is this something that we should do to have this kind of co-creation and to do these kinds of interviews? And they said yes. And I said, who would be the interviewer? Who would interview me? And they immediately said Alicia Bryan. And there was never, ever another name on the table. It was always you. And so we are here now, 6 months later, at like the intersection of free will and destiny. So I'm just really, really grateful for you to say yes to doing this with me, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, for thinking about me. I was like so shocked when you asked me, but I love to talk to you about all of this and just learn from you really. In these 2 years, I've learned so much and I've changed so much. And I know I'm not the only one of your clients that feels that way. So I'm just basically blessed to be here and to be this helper, really. That's what I feel like.
Thank you so much. And you're so much more than a helper. You are the co-creator, and I feel your like divine Pleiadian self involved in this, and hopefully this is just the first of many lifetimes where we are co-creating together. But we'd love to know a little bit more about you. Yeah, what would you like to share?
So, like you said, 2 years ago, really, we met and it was pandemic. And like many people, my life was going through kind of an upheaval and it came out of nowhere. And growing up, I was always interested in really the unknown or what some people might call woo woo. But I really just thought of it as a greater spirituality. And through all that, I mean, in us meeting, I just opened up to this whole other world that I wasn't sure was real, like many people. And through my own personal experiences, it's just kind of been incredible. And I've consumed a lot of information and read a lot and talked with you. And through that, I just feel like so many more people should have that same spiritual journey or in their own way, I suppose, figure out answers to questions that we don't think we have, but we just don't really, I guess, try hard enough or use the right mediums, maybe, whether that be ourselves or someone like you to reach out to a higher consciousness. And um, yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I live in upstate New York. I work in the entertainment industry, and this is really just an interest of mine and a hobby. And yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of it.
And you have a dog.
I do. I have a dog, Olive, and I do have a cat, Lily. Um, yeah, and I actually have a new dog, Rosemary, and yeah, we love animals over here.
Wow, I didn't know you got a new dog. Oh, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to get some pictures for sure. Oh, I love
Thank
that. So you've got a lot of animals now.
Yeah, that's another interest of mine, but those are my two focus, really.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, we are so glad to have you here, and I'd love to know. So, for those of you who maybe didn't hear the full intro, Alicia is going to be interviewing me. Well, actually not me at all. Alicia's going to be interviewing through me, different extraterrestrials, interdimensional spiritual guides, social memory complexes that we know as different ascended masters, galactic families. And it is completely and 100% her choice who she would like to select from the giant list of all the different beings and plants and animals that I channel. But she gets to choose, and she gets to choose all of the questions. So I'm really going into this. I have an idea of who we're going to channel because they'll start to attune to my energy about 1 to 2 days before this. And then, but she knows all of the questions, and they have not told me any of the questions or any details. So we've kept it really, really just a pure stream of consciousness. So I just get to drop out and channel. So I'd love to know, Alicia, who have you selected for our first interview?
I have selected the Galactic Federation, the Pleiadian Council.
Amazing. And what about them kind of stood out to you?
Well, as you mentioned, I am a Pleiadian starseed, and they were really the first introduction when working with you, when talking about my spirit guides, and I really just feel connected to them. So through that, I thought the Galactic Federation would also be interesting at this time, especially to allow other people listening to this um, maybe a better understanding through the way I can ask questions and maybe, help them in that way.
Yep, absolutely. And that's our mission to really, and like you said in our initial meeting, to kind of like demystify some of this some of these questions that people might have that I don't think to ask because I'm so
Right.
deeply entrenched in all of the information and in the psychic experience. So you're really like humanity's representative as far as asking the questions that come up when you are listening to someone do a channeling like this, and to follow your intuition where it leads you. Again, I have no idea what the questions are going to be, but I'm very excited to just drop in and let them channel. The Pleiadian Security Council, they call themselves the Council of Light, the Pleiadian Council of Light. And they have been kind of on the outskirts of my work with the GFL. I normally work through the 90 Arcturian Council of Light. There aren't very many imaginative names out there, so they're basically all different councils of light. And but I have tapped into them one or two times, but they're not super well known to me. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of answers they have. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to add before we begin?
No, just basically that I want to start out with some really simple, basic questions that, I mean, you probably touched on very early on in your podcasts, and through your Instagram, and maybe things that I've learned from you or from other channels. But I think looking back, these are some of the first questions that I would have asked. And it might give people just an easier understanding.
Amazing. All right. Let me just attune really quick. And for all of those who are new to watching me channel, the Pleiadians are not, this isn't a trance channel. They're not going to like enter my body and take over. I'm really pulling on the thread of myself that's connected to them. And so we use that kind of like Wi-Fi, and they are able to speak directly through me and send transmissions, but I'm here, I'm listening, I'm also experiencing visuals, audio, and able to have separate conversations with them while they are channeling and answering Alicia's questions. So at the end, I'll kind of come back up and share some of the things that also came through. We communicate now.
My first question is, when a human thinks of you and your population, what should they imagine? And where are you located now?
We are located approximately above your northern pole. You are communicating with the Galactic Federation of Light, what you might call a mothership or a main ship. This has become our headquarters. We are the Pleiadian Council that is assisting Earth during this ascension right now. Our population stems from early human populations. There are some populations in the Pleiades, as you know. We have many planets there that serve different purposes. This is a divine feminine community, or what you might understand as a divine feminine community. When you think of our population, you may think of semi-humanoid beings living harmoniously together. Although it was not always thus, it was not always this way for us. There were many times when we lived in a state of distress, both emotional and spiritual, although leaning towards the spiritual distress. We are beings drawn to the light. This is perhaps a catalyst of our DNA, the templates that were used to create us, skewing us quite heavily towards the light. We had trouble in our earlier years, more close and similar to the years that your humanity is going through right now. We had some trouble integrating what you call the shadow self, the darkness. Through our struggles integrating this part of ourselves, we chase the light daily, heavily, with all of our might, believing that if we were all and only light, that we would ascend much faster. However, this is not the balance of the universe. And so when we were young, like your species are, we had to go through our own catalyst and struggles, learning how to integrate and assimilate the shadow self. The part of us that you are communicating right now is what you might call a late fourth, early fifth density version of self, where we have done much work to assimilate the shadow self, the darkness that is part of all creation.
How would you describe Earth and the beings that inhabit it?
We describe Earth as a place of joy and of love. However, we see all of you through our lens. We see all of you through divine perfection. We see all of you as your highest selves. This is the lens that we are viewing much of the universe through that will not make much sense to you. You are seeing the universe through your own individual lenses. This is true for each and every one of you. We understand that each of you are creating your own realities. Each of you are a creator being. However, many of you are young creators and you are learning how to create a reality that is harmonious with those around you and that is also filled with joy and with beauty and potentiality. We see you through this lens that you may think of will become your future lens. When we think of humanity, we do not think of the many distresses. Although we understand the distresses, we understand the potential timelines, we understand the potential, what you might call falls. These falls are often lapses in judgment based in fear. The fear band frequency, however, is being released from Earth. This is no longer the great catalyst that it once was for humanity and that it had been for thousands of years. So when we observe you, we do not see the distress that you may see, although we have the ability to look through many of our agents in the field, those such as yourself, who have codes, what you might call contracts, to upload information that you are seeing through your 3D reality to this ship. The codes that we receive, the information that we receive, allows us to perceive the temperature, if you will, of how humanity is perceiving itself, which is truly the most important part. For you are the beings on the ground, you are the beings living and existing on this planet, you are the beings assimilating the light that we are sending. We cannot ascend for humanity. Humanity must make the choice to ascend for themselves. To conclude, when we look upon you, we see love, we see light. We are loving you every day. What you consider 24/7, we are loving you. We see your highest, most divine selves, and it is our greatest wish, our greatest intention for you to look upon yourselves the same way.
What is the best way to describe the human experience from your point of view?
One of experimentation through creation. This is true of many species and many races throughout our known universe. You will go through many different lifetimes where there will be great experimentation, where there will be catalysts, where there will be sicknesses, illnesses, where there will be death, destruction, war, where there will be warring against oneself. As you continue to navigate these different experiences, you will come into the understanding that you are, in fact, creating the experience. Therefore, it is up to each individual soul to choose what they would like to create for their given reality. Some of you are living in bliss consciousness even now. Some of you are living in high divine levels of love daily, even now, while others are choosing and learning that they are choosing, coming into the awareness that they are choosing paths of great sorrow, paths of great destruction. It would not be wise for us to say that any human experience is the same, for this would be somewhat incorrect. While you may consider yourselves a collective, and there are collective threads that connect you, each of you is having a completely unique experience.
How do you help the earth and the humans on it?
We help in multiple, various ways. The first way that may be known to you already is that we are sending rays, great cosmic rays of divine love light. You call this a higher frequency. However, this is your mother frequency, your home frequency. We are sending out these rays of love light in the hope and desire that it will call you home, that it will guide you back to your natural resting frequency, which is divine love light. We send these rays through different teams. You may think of them. Some of these teams are here on our ship. Some are of other species on other ships. Some are working directly on the sun, and others are working directly on what you perceive to be the moon. We work through these different shifts. You may think of them, sending continuous rays of divine love light to your planet. This is our greatest gift. It is the greatest offering. It is the greatest service that we could give to another being, the remembrance of who they truly are. For all of you must choose if you desire to receive this remembrance in this lifetime, or if you desire not. It is your choice. Many of you know already what you will choose. And you consciously say to yourself, I will choose to receive this divine love light. I open myself up to receive it. However, the next step would be the previous question. As we have answered, each of you are learning that you are creating your reality. So as you choose to receive the divine love light, with that comes the awakening, the awareness. Oh, me, who I perceive myself to be, am creating my lived experience, my everyday reality. What will I choose to create today? This is where you walk as like a small child, learning how to walk, taking baby steps as you begin to shift your reality and create something that has not yet existed for many of you before. And so this comes to our second task, which is offering assistance to those who desire to receive guidance from us. We are available at all times. We do not tire. We do not need sleep and rest the way that you do. We are available at all times to give guidance to those who are praying, or even simply wishing, or even the slightest desire. I desire some help with this. There is nothing too small. There is no task that is too small. We desire to help with all of it because of the immense love that we feel towards each and every one of you as the unique creations that you are. And so we send rays of divine love light, and we offer guidance and assistance. The third task, which you may be more curious about, is our observation of humanity, the potential timelines, and the risk catalyst. Wherever there are many humans gathered, there is much risk catalyst. This is simply the nature of the human form, human DNA, as you know and call it. The risk catalyst is, will they choose to destroy themselves or larger parts of themselves? And we assess this risk. We assess this telepathically. There is no direct communication necessary. All of this information is instantly and immediately uploaded to our ship. We are able to review all of it. Once we have reviewed and have observed and have come together in council and discussed the different risks, we assess the situation and we make a decision if there is any interference necessary or needed for the highest and greatest good of all. As in, is the risk of us interfering with any one human's free will weighed against the highest and greatest good of all? That is how we make our decisions. These decisions may seem somewhat simplistic in your language and terms. However, they are quite complex as human intentions change daily. You are a somewhat unpredictable species. This is not what you might call bad or dark or not good. This is simply a catalyst of your own nature. We understand. We are aware. We are able to see and to perceive. However, we do not condemn. We do not judge. We are only available to send you divine love light frequency. As these assessments are made, which are sometimes frequent and sometimes few and far between, as these assessments are made, we decide what must be done and we consult our elders. There are councils upon councils upon councils that must be consulted. Please understand, this is not taking place in your linear timeline. Often, this is taking place in what you might perceive to be your future timeline. What you perceive to be today, this time, is in fact already said and done. It is already completed. And we are in fact operating somewhat slightly ahead of where you perceive yourself to be. Our conversations with our elders and the Council of Saturn, which is the council of finality in our universe, these conversations are immediate, telepathic. They do not consume what you call time or space. They operate in a somewhat different frequency, a different dimensionality, and they are conversations of light. Once we have consulted with our elders, the Council of Saturn, if there need be any interference, this must be agreed upon. And then the following and appropriate actions will be taken. We are grateful and glad to say that very few actions have ever needed to be taken. We would rather, as opposed to directly interfering in human affairs, we would rather influence our agents on the ground to hold higher frequencies. Of these agents, you are one. And so we send forth these frequencies, we communicate with you in dreams, we counsel you, we guide you. Whatever you will allow us to do for you, we will do. This is how we would prefer to interact in a more harmonious way, in a way that is service to others as you understand it. There are other functions that we perform for other species and other planets. However, this has not been specified in this question, but we feel the wondering in some of your hearts. Can it be so simple that they only perform these three tasks? This is what you might call an abbreviation or a simplification. There are many other planets that require our assistance. We oversee as many as we can. However, this council that you are in direct communication with is what you might call the line of direct Pleiadian communication to Earth, the Gaians that occupy Earth.
Have you or any other galactic beings ever been physically present on Earth in what we would refer to as our 3D?
Yes, many of us are present with you now. However, we are not physically embodied unless we pass through the incarnation process. Our physical presence on Earth at this time is not necessary. Physical presence is limited to a 3D reality. Our presence will be more visual and experienced in a closer proximity, we hope, in your very near future. At this time, we have what you might call agents on the ground, which are brave souls from the Pleiadian ranks who have volunteered to go through the incarnative process to incarnate into a physical human vehicle and live a life much as you are experiencing. However, there are agreements in their energy that they will communicate, work with us, that they will upload information and allow us to be of service to their energy. So the answer is yes, we are present there with you, and we do consider ourselves present on the ground. However, we are not in non-human physical vehicles.
And how does a soul sign up for such an incarnation? And I guess why don't we realize that as humans?
This is a delightful question. We are pleased to answer this. How does a soul volunteer to be embodied on any given planet? For the process is the same should you choose to come to Gaia or Earth, as you call her, or anywhere else in the known universe. We would say that for most souls, this process happens after a lifetime and incarnation has ended. You have much time to reflect, to dwell, to think, how would I like to spend my next incarnation? The souls that you might be referring to in this question have perhaps already spent lifetimes as what you know as Pleiadians. Once they are in between lifetimes, they may have observed issues on Earth and thought perhaps I could be of better service if I were to incarnate as a Gaian, as an Earth human, and return to the ground. And therefore, I would be able to be of service. The veiling process is known to all. There is no secret that when you enter into a third density planet or a planet that is hosting chemical body vehicles, that you will pass through the veiling process, that the veiling process will not be exempt from you. However, there are many catalysts set up in advance to initiate, or what you might call awaken, the soul during their lifetime and bring them back into their remembrance. Oh, that is who I am. Oh, that is what I came to do. Oh, now I am remembering. This is a multi-layered process that happens for many of you over time. Some of you, it may feel more abruptly, but that is only a single layer that has been peeled back and revealed to you about yourself and about what you intended to do upon your return or your experience on Earth. We use the word return because most have already had incarnative experiences on Gaia. Once a soul has decided that this is what they shall do, they pass through the vortex of light. Some of you refer to this as a stargate. We would call this a vortex of light from etheric. And then you are brought to the parents who will host your body vehicle. From there begins the merging process that does take some time. The other way to volunteer would be mid-life, as you may perceive it. Some may be mid-incarnation and say, if I were to return, if I were to have a choice, I would choose and decide to go to this planet or to this place. And so they are making a decision before their current incarnation has ended. When their current incarnation ends, their guide will ask them, is this still what you would like to do? And then we'll guide them through the process of setting up and assimilating for that lifetime.
Could you describe why a large majority of humans are unaware of your existence and their origins?
This is due completely to the veiling process. The veil must be intact for all third density beings upon their quarantine on their planet. They understand when they are in soul form, light etheric form, that they will have no memories of from whence they came or where they are going. This is crucial to allow there to be as little interference as possible for them to make their own soul decision should they choose during that incarnation whether they will be service to self or service to others. However, you are perhaps wondering why many do not remember who they are now that you are no longer a third density only planet. This is because, unfortunately, the human evolution as Gaians has somewhat slowed, and they have not been able to develop their consciousness for a body of light. A body of light is what you might call a fourth density incarnation where no veiling process is necessary. However, we will tell you that there are some souls entering into your planetary sphere at this time with very little veil, as in the veil will not work the same for them. They are in a somewhat upgraded body vehicle, a newer model, if you will. Therefore, the veil, which is now on your planet an obsolete technology, will no longer work in the same way as it does for your body vehicle. Your body vehicle is, unfortunately, an older model. Therefore, you have the veil intact and in place. It is possible for you to begin the process of dismantling the veil should you choose. However, we cannot make this decision for all of humanity. Therefore, many humans who entered into your planetary sphere with these older models will still have the veil intact and in place. This is why our agents on the ground are vital to assist and support the ascension of humanity. The ascension must happen from within, it cannot happen from without. We have very little ability to co create an ascension with you. This must be a free will choice by all beings upon this planet. However, we urge you and we usher you into this fourth density because your planet has already left third density time space. No longer is it a third density sphere. And so it is now a fourth density sphere, meaning that the body vehicles upon the sphere are becoming quickly, rapidly outdated. And so we assist in all of the ways that we have previously said to support humanity in their awakening, yes, but also in their free will choice if they would like to ascend and to become a body of light. Once the choice is made by over 1% of your population, the bodies of light will begin the process of incarnating. These would be body vehicles that do not have a veil intact, for it will not be necessary. However, we have not reached that 1% yet.
How would a human go about dismantling their own veil?
There are many different ways, tools. Some seek the ways of the shaman, which is to go through many spiritual deaths and rebirths. This is an effective way to begin dismantling the veiling process. What you refer to as a spiritual awakening is the beginning, a somewhat fumbling beginning to dismantle the veil itself. As you learn, you cannot help but pull away. As you see the light, you cannot help but brush away the cobwebs that are interfering with the direct light. The light that we send you, and that many others send you, is nothing more than a remembrance of who you are. That is all that this ascension process is. A come home, come home, come home process. And so there are many different ways that we may call you home, but all of you will find different ways to begin brushing aside this veil. Some of you will seek to do it through these psychic gifts. Some of you will seek to do it through the shaman work, the death and rebirth, what you may refer to as shadow work. The shadow work shows you the truth of who you are, all sides of yourself, and so this is another way to seek the light. This is another way to begin dismantling the veil. What we would not recommend is the pursuit of attempting to have another individual deteriorate your veil for you. This is not recommended, for it is a violation of free will. All souls will find their own way towards reaching for the light, brushing aside this cobweb that keeps you shrouded in the mystery of who you are. Some of you will find this purely through information. Some of you will find this through energy. Some of you will find this through mushrooms. Some of you will find this in a giant room filled with dancing beings, all of those having an ecstatic experience. Some of you will find this in the arms of your loved one. Some of you will find this in the eyes of your child. Some of you will find this right now as you are listening and hearing our words, and perhaps awakening, activating. There are many different paths through the ascension. We would say no two will be the same. However, most of you will choose the shaman's path, the path of death and rebirth, continuous, until enough of the veil has been washed away that you feel you are seeing yourself quite clearly and remembering who you are, the truth of who you are. Once enough of the veil has been washed away, you will perhaps no longer seek the ways of the shaman. You will no longer feel the draw to the death and rebirth spiritual cycle, and you will be able to assimilate yourself. We would also say that the dismantling of the veiling process in a 3D chemical body will not be your final evolution. It would only be one step in the right direction.
Could you explain a little bit more about that evolution?
The evolutionary process that we refer to is the evolution out of a chemical body into the light body. The light body, as you know, vibrates faster. There is different DNA in the light body. The DNA has become an area of great interest to humanity, to those that are, as we say, brushing aside the cobwebs, seeking the light and the truth of who they are, seeking and desiring information about what is next for humanity. And with that comes the transmutation and activation of crystalline DNA. This is a word that means Christ light. The Christ light is what we refer to as the fractals of light from fifth dimensionality, but also the light body itself. The light body itself is fully fifth dimensional. It is no longer third dimensional. It is also the proper body vehicle of the fourth density. It will grow and evolve over many lifetimes as you continue your experience through the fourth density of consciousness until the vibrations quicken and there is no longer a body vehicle necessary. Once the body vehicle is no longer necessary and you are assimilated to pure photonic light, that is when you may find yourself and those who have traveled with you entering into the fifth density of consciousness. You may think of the evolution from third to fifth density as the shedding of the skin. You will shed this chemical body, perhaps in one lifetime, perhaps in many lifetimes. It is not written yet, especially for your planet. However, as you enter into fourth density of consciousness, there will be additional shedding. This shedding will not be visible to you in the same way that you are perceiving the reality around you in this moment. This will be a shedding of denser photonic light. That is our simplest way that we can communicate this concept to you.
Would you say that Earth is going through a mass awakening? And if yes, why?
There are various levels of awakening, as you call it. However, no, we would not say there is at this time mass or massive awakening. There is merely the friction that is being created and caused in many individuals' experience, what you call lives, by the simple fact that your planet has ascended further in consciousness than the inhabitants of the planet, who are feeling somewhat left behind. And so as they come to the awareness of their left behindness, they are reaching for their mother. As an inhabitant of the planet, we consider the planetary sphere the mother energy, which is nurturing and governing you while you are in the experience. And so many of you are reaching for your mother, reaching for where she has gone, which is only slightly into the fourth density, what you perceive as your future. Those who desire to be reunited with their mother will reach. Those who do not desire, this is okay. They will simply enter into a new incarnation with a new mother that is more suitable to them. This process will happen quickly for some of you and over many years for others. We say this in two different terms, quickly for some of you, because many of you who are hearing and receiving these words are those who are reaching for your mother, reaching for the light. Where has she gone? As you experience this spiritual, mental, emotional friction, you will be drawn more and more to reach for whence Gaia has gone. This is the awakening that many of you are experiencing. However, we would not categorize this as a mass awakening, although we do desire that more would reach for the light, for this is our intention to assist all souls who desire to catch up. And we will do all that we can. However, we cannot violate the free will of those who do not desire that for their experience. And so you have what you may call a mixed pot on your planet at this time. What some of you are wondering is what will happen should Gaia continue her vibratory experience much further than I. What will happen again is the relocation of your soul to a different planet, to a different incarnative experience. This is already happening and has been happening for approximately 119 of your years. We have been relocating many of the souls who desire to continue following the karmic path on a different planet. This planet is more suitable to the karmic path itself, and the bodies are quite similar. Having a similar planet and a similar body to reintegrate into allows the adjustment period to be quite quick. So there are some who will choose that path. There are others who will choose to stay and continue working with, nurturing, being of service to Gaia as they step into deeper spiritual maturity. However, to do this, there must be the full activation of the light body. Gaia will not support 3D chemical bodies for what do you consider long? We would say 100 to 200 of your years. And so this evolution must be quite quick for those who desire to stay. Those who desire to leave will be nurtured, taken care of, gently, lovingly. Again, we say there is no judgment. You may choose with your free will what you desire to experience.
So are you saying that within the next few hundred years, as we think of it, that what we know as Earth will no longer sustain human life as it does now?
This is correct.
Is this because of the way humans have lived on it or for other purposes?
Although there has been much individual abusive actions taken by some who do not value themselves or others around them, that is merely their current state of consciousness, it would not be correct for us to say that this has been entirely affected by human action. Unfortunately, that is not possible for humans to completely eradicate the livability of this planet. That is why many of us are here. Many of us are here working together as a confederation of planets in service to the one infinite creator to ensure that planets themselves are seen as creations of the creator and are also taken care of.
Are there many places within our known galaxy that can sustain human life?
To be more specific, the human life that you are referring to is your current human form. The current human form, the template ID that you are occupying, is a third density, third dimensionality body vehicle. There are other planets, yes, of course, that would sustain this third density, third dimensionality body vehicle. Absolutely. However, existing in third dimension, third density is not always necessary. Many souls occupying Earth at this time are actually fourth density. They may have the choice, should they leave this incarnation, or when they do leave this incarnation, they will have the choice if they desire to continue having these experiences. Perhaps there has been some karmic entanglements, perhaps they have developed many loved ones that they desire to continue working with, and so they may follow them to another planet that is supporting this type of life form. However, it is not necessary for many of you. Many of you will have different options if you would like to go to this planet or to that planet, or to embody this species or that species, or perhaps some of you will simply like to rest. So it will not be necessary for all to continue having this same exact experience. Many of your lifetimes have been varied experiences on varied planets. Many of you follow what we will call the action. As many of you have traveled to Earth for the action. This is the action period right now. And so many of you might come back a few more times before you follow the action somewhere else. To conclude your answer, the answer is always yes. There are many, many more planets that support the exact body vehicle that you are in. However, you may exit this vehicle, dear one Alicia, and say, I desire something a little more upgraded.
What is something that humans currently now on Earth should know?
This is perhaps a question, if we may, we would like to rephrase. There are many things that you may know and may learn. However, the processes of the human mind are somewhat limiting. If there were one single gift that we would give to you, it would not be a knowing, it would be a vibration. It would be the direct activation of the fourth energy center, known to you as the heart chakra. The heart chakra is the gateway, the path of your divine remembrance. All of the secrets of who you are can be unlocked through this energy center. If there was one gift, perhaps, that we were able to give all of humanity, even though not all will accept any such gift, but if there were one, it would be the activation, the remembrance, the frequency, the energy of unconditional, pure, ecstatic love.
And my final question is about when humans here on Earth will understand that we are not alone. Although some of us already seem to understand that, will it come to a greater population in the near future?
Yes. Yes, this is a timeline that we are working directly with and is perhaps the catalyst of this conversation. Yes, we are so glad and rejoicing to be able to tell you yes. Yes, there will be disclosure in your near future. It is not only necessary but it is a must. It is somewhat overdue, for your planet has evolved past you. Therefore, we must make ourselves known. And we appreciate this opportunity to communicate and to speak with you. A direct and final date is not known. However, we are working without any tirelessly, although we do not tire. But you understand our meaning. We are working tirelessly to bring this to fruition as fast as possible. We thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel great. I love talking to Pleiadians or having Pleiadians talk through me. I feel great. I felt when they said like we wouldn't send a knowing, we would send a vibration. It was just this huge heart chakra activation. And yeah, it was just so beautiful to feel their unconditional love, but also something I loved about them is their desire to be playful. That they wanted to use words that would like make sense to us. They wanted to kind of bring it, down a little bit. There were some words that I was like, guys, like, can we bring it a little bit more like 2023? And they were able to kind of do that. They wanted to do that. And that was the feeling that I got from them is, it's easy for us to kind of think of extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings as being stoic, as like being like these holy beings or something, but they're not. They all have their own personalities. So what I'd love to share is I think there's 9 beings on this council, and maybe it's 8 or 9 beings on this council. And my back hurts a little bit, which I didn't feel while I was channeling, but I think I was a little bit leaning on one side. Um, but they like all took different turns speaking, but for the most part, what's interesting is we think of Pleiadians, we tend to think of them, as they said, as divine feminine beings, but it was actually all masculine speaking through me for the most part. There were feminine in the group, but for the most part, there was masculine speaking through me. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And they were very interested in us, very interested in communicating, very interested in this conversation getting out there. Yeah. What did you think?
I feel like I need to like hear it again, like beginning to end, because even for someone that's been listening to your podcast since the very beginning, it's a lot to digest. And even though their energy is beautiful, it's just going in through the human ear and out the other side is just, it's really mind blowing. However, I think the questions were answered in a way that might just do exactly what we wanted to do, demystify. And like you said, like people think they're just stoic, godly beings, when really it's not that crazy for them to have a conversation with us through the right channels.
Yeah, no, not crazy at all. They love it. They're always looking for the opportunity. And so something that I saw was, and what I kind of learned and took away from it is as you were asking the questions about humanity, they would show me the Earth sphere and the globe, and they would show me that, like, one, like humanity is almost this term that's almost too vague. And so they kept bringing in Gaians, right? Gaians, like I guess we will be known in the future as Gaians. And they kept bringing up Gaians specifically and really kind of pinpointing like the area in time, space, dimension where we are right now is an area of intense friction, but there are so many other places out in the universe where that friction doesn't exist. And so they were like, you guys all came here for the action because there's action going on here. And when there's no more action, which would be probably in about 2 to 400 years, it's not going to be at all, this um this place of like tumultuousness and like, are we going to awaken or not? Are we going to go to the dark or the light? Like, what are we doing? And basically, they've said like Gaia's already fourth density light. So the inhabitants really only have two choices. One, if you want to be service to self, you're going to have to leave this planet. And two, I guess three choices, right? The second one would be if you want to stay on the karmic path, you want to keep having these really visceral experiences that are only possible in these dense bodies, you have to go to a different planet that's supporting that. And there's two other planets that looks like they are starting to populate right now. They both look similar to Earth. I would say they look more like the North, very forest-like, and a little bit cooler temperature. It didn't look like there was a lot of like tropical, and we kind of know that about Earth, that Earth had all of these different temperatures and climates calculated into it so that it could support the living library that it's supposed to be, which is all various different plants, animals from all over the universe. So you have that choice. And then the third choice is you can stay here, continue into fourth density, which it sounds like a lot of us who are awakening or who probably are those fourth density beings that they were talking about. They're basically like, you guys went backwards so that you could help them come forwards, right? And so it sounds like it'll be us who continue incarnating here. And who actually, once all of the action is over, we're the residents of this planet. Um, the one thing I did want to add though is when you asked, like, will it not be habitable anymore for humans, these humans, the answer is yes. And what they showed me is the Earth's temperature does heat up, and that's normal on a fourth density planet, that it would be hotter because the light bodies vibrate faster. So they actually need a warmer temperature overall for them to exist on that planet. Which is one of the reasons why those bodies have not begun incarnating fully here, right? We have resistance from the inhabitants, but the planet's already moving that way. But it wasn't like a desert planet. It wasn't ugly. It was like more beautiful than how I see our world right now. The colors were brighter. It was more lush. It was just beautiful. It was almost like all of the plants and the animals that will stay here through fourth density go through their own crystalline conversion so that they match the temperature of the fourth density planet, and they thrive there as well. So it's like everything changes to be able to thrive, and what we would perceive to be a warmer temperature is actually way more beautiful. It's more beautiful. Like, it wouldn't be that pleasant in a really dense, thick body like we have, but if we had a light body, it would look like paradise. And so it was a beautiful, like, rich, lush. The colors are brighter. I mean, your eyes are even better in a fourth density body anyway. So it's just really beautiful. And so that's something that I wanted to share with everyone, is that the planet Earth, and I used to feel this way a lot before I became a channel, but Earth doesn't like explode. It doesn't like become this like barren desert landscape where nothing can exist. We have desert planets out there. If they wanted to become a desert planet, they totally could, but it doesn't. It becomes even more beautiful. And I think that that is really something for us to look forward to. If you are a soul who's like, I would like to stay here and experience that and continue my awakening, continue, you know, activating the light body, and eventually incarnating into a light body and coming back to Earth. What I have a feeling is that during that time, of course, there will be less population because most souls will choose to go to a karmic planet. There will be less population. There will be, a different atmosphere. And I think a lot of the souls that will choose to stay here for like thousands of years are going to be what I've called the galactic gardeners. And they are the ones who kind of travel through the galaxy, gathering up plants, bringing them to a planet like this one, nurturing them, and then they download all the codes, the DNA structures, and they send it off to other planets so that they can grow them too. So I think that's really kind of what ends up happening on Earth in 500, 1,000, who knows how many years, is that it's full of these galactic gardeners. And those of us who are more action based have moved to action planets and action species, and we're still on our galactic adventure.
Now, I have a question for you that other people might have. Um, like when you say some of us might choose to go to a planet that's more karmic based, why? Why would we do that? Because, like, humans think about here, karma stinks. Like, no one wants to live their karma. And obviously, it advanced us, but why would someone choose that?
Yeah, totally. That's a great question. I love that question. So, there's those who have the choice, are those who are aware of it being a karmic planet, right? We have to become aware and we have to go through the process of forgiveness, which releases us from the karmic wheel. And then we get the choice, like, where do you want to go from here? And you also, you go through the process of transitioning into fourth density, which is activating the heart chakra. And so there are different checks and balances in place to make sure that your soul has the spiritual maturity to leave the karmic path. You also have to make your choice, right? And that's what third density is all about, is making the choice. Do you want to be service to others or do you want to be service to self? And you can take as many lifetimes and as many thousands or millions of years as you want to figure it out. There's, again, they said twice, there's no judgment. Like, wherever you want to be. However, the friction on your planet is because your planet's in one place and you're in another. So those are kind of the reasons why a soul group, and we always travel and kind of evolve with our soul group. So if the soul group is highly unconscious, which is at this point, I'm just going to make a broad generalization and say most of the planet, like you ask them, like, why is most of the planet not aware of their galactic families or of anything outside of themselves, really? And so they are, when you're highly unconscious, you're still deep inside of the karmic path. You're still figuring everything out. It's very much the video game. So those souls will absolutely want to go to a karmic planet because they can have all the same experiences. They can, become a king, become an emperor. They can, have all of these different lifetimes. Once you start to get into fourth density and you remember who you are, you know your path of service, that's when it becomes less about, let me have this visceral physical experience, and more about how can I serve others. So it's two different places of spiritual maturity. Those who are highly unconscious, they don't really get the choice. They're going to be guided to this new planet by their guides, and they're going to know that they're on the karmic path and they're going to be happy with being there. It's like, say you have a group of third graders. If they're all in third grade, they're not going to say, like, why am I not in sixth grade? But the kid who's already taken third grade a few times is like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, I'm ready to graduate to the next thing, like, I'm tired of this. So that's really like the soul progression. So some will choose to follow. Maybe you have a soul group that you work with, and there's a few that are kind of struggling to catch up. That heart of compassion is going to come through and say, like, no, I want to follow them to this planet. Like, we have all the time in the world because time's not even real. So we follow them to that planet. We continue helping to be their catalyst for them to grow and mature. And then we kind of move together as one. So those are some of the reasons why. And I think for the vast majority of the planet, a lot will happily go to a karmic planet because it's the planet of play. It's really like it's honestly, it's kind of a free for all because you don't know that anyone else is out there. You don't have any of that accountability. You only have the individual experience.
And another question I have for you, just so we can get like maybe a visual that you're getting when you channel or you communicate with someone like the Pleiadians, like what are you see? What do they look like? Like, did you see them?
Yeah, so I see the Pleiadians in two different forms. My original connection with the Pleiadians is with one of my future incarnations. That is simultaneous because time's not real. So with them, it's way deeper in fourth density. And so they've kind of evolved out of the very human, beautiful forms that we see and think of as Pleiadians. Those are very much like close fourth density Pleiadians. So I see them a little bit further when they've kind of shed a lot of the physical characteristics and they look much more alien. I see them with kind of this grayish purplish, like iridescent skin, more of an alien look, no hair, the bald head and the elongated cranium are symbols of the growth that someone has had, that they're closer to fifth density because yeah, you get like upgraded etheric brain, like it's a whole thing. But eventually we won't have hair. So like do whatever hairstyle you want, do whatever hair color you want because you have many lifetimes with no hair. And we don't need hair. We don't have the ego. We don't need that sense of identity. So I see them normally as that version of themselves. I know a few other people out in the world have seen them purplish, some have seen them bluish, and all of those are just different evolutions of themselves. But I am starting to kind of call in and see, because of this Galactic Wars series that I'm doing, to see them in their more humanoid form, which is, a lot of them tend to be blonde. The one female that was there with us just now, she had like these crystal blue eyes that just look like gems for eyes. And that was really cool. And she's, platinum white hair, the kind that no matter how much I bleach, you just can't get that shade. So yeah, I see them in those two different forms. And for this specific council, we're working mostly with fourth density. As strange as it sounds, like they are almost the equivalent. Like, say you have a group of kindergartners and like humans are the kindergartners. You can imagine them as kind of like the TAs who are like middle school, high school, and they're like helping out. And then we have like, families like the Arcturians who are more like the adults. And then we have like, the Elohim who are like actually in charge of this universe, which is like way, way deep in seventh density. So when we work with the Pleiadians, they're a little bit ahead of us, but not when you look at the grand scope of things, not that much. So they do look somewhat humanoid. As far as what I see when I'm channeling them, I'm not usually looking at them. I'm usually seeing all of the visuals. So when you ask a question, it's almost like a TV in front of me that changes. And like when you ask questions about Earth, they show me Earth. When you ask questions about the Pleiades, they showed me the Pleiades. For me as a blue flame, it looks like I'm standing out in space and seeing it all on like a giant IMAX screen. When we get more specific, that's when they zoom in to like specific parts of a planet, a species. Sometimes when you would ask questions about like humanity, they would show me like a busy city and they would kind of
Mhm.
be pointing out to me in the background, like, look how different everyone is. Everyone's having a totally different experience. So while we're all one, we're all totally unique. So I see a lot of visuals like that. And then I think the most stunning one from this conversation was definitely seeing when you were asking about like the progression of the planet and them showing me this very like paradise looking earth and how it was truly, the Garden of Eden, what we always imagined that would be like. It's like that was never here and never like went away. It's coming. And it's also how most beings in the universe think of Gaia, right? They don't call it Earth, they call it Gaia. And that's how they think of her, as this beautiful Garden of Eden where they have all brought their different species, their different plants, animals, to be part of that living library. It's almost like she's a physical, kind of like a physical Akashic records.
Do other galactic beings see it that way because they can see different timelines, because they can see her further than we can?
Yeah, because most of them don't exist in this timeline. It gets a little confusing, but once you get out of, the 3D timeline down here, so many more things are simultaneous that is, kind of what they're seeing is what we would perceive to be our future. They already see it as their now. And that's why like these future versions of us, like these future Pleiadians, like they exist right now and they're part of this conversation, even though our souls haven't yet developed spiritually to their point, but then they're helping us right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's a mind twister.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think that's possible for so many humans to grasp, just because we haven't made it there in terms of science. I mean, you may channel the information, but I think it's just so much more than the human brain can grasp right now.
Totally. And that's why I always encourage people, just like you were telling me in that message, just listen and like let it sink in without thinking about it too much. Because once it can
Right.
pass through the mind and it gets into the soul's like, hell yeah, I know what you're talking about. We can feel the truth of something in our soul. And just like they said, like you guys are reaching for the light because the light is who you are. And so we're always reaching for the truth of who we are. And that's how you break out of the shell of third density and third dimension. And that's how you start to to reveal that light body that already exists. All the DNA is already there, everything is here. It's really about shedding what was and becoming more and more of who you are, which is the entire song of the universe. That's it, is like, who am I? Well, let me take everything off and find out. Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
I
did an
think one
amazing
way
job,
I've
by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
think one thing I've learned through listening to your podcast and like working with you, and having these conversations with other people that have worked with you, is that this information is almost better, especially when you're just learning it, to think of it as just eating food. Like, digest it and then let, your mind and your soul do the rest, because it may come back to you later on and things might make more sense as you know, go along in your journey. But don't expect to understand it right now in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And I think another thing to kind of consider for those who are struggling, especially with like simultaneous time and like your future self is actually here helping you right now, is that the human mind, the mind is designed for spirit to be able to process linear time because spirit exists in simultaneous time. So it's almost like you have a device that is put on you to help you have a linear experience, to help you understand stories, past, present, future, but it's supporting spirit understanding and having that experience. It's not actually spirit itself.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible.
So I'm curious, did you feel satisfied with all of their answers? Did you feel like, how did you feel when you were receiving all those transmissions?
Um, halfway through, one, yes, completely satisfied. I don't know how one couldn't be satisfied with a conversation like that, but at the same time, about halfway through, I felt like I was having a complete out of body experience. Um,
Oh no.
I just I just think, not in a bad way, but I just think
Good.
the information itself can just really, I mean, it takes you to a whole different place. Like, our human brain doesn't normally digest that information, especially in our, day-to-day 3D world. So I think it's in the best way possible, just to be able to really kind of step out of your human body and just digest it the best that you can. And like I said, I will be listening to this on repeat probably 2 or 3 times, which I've had to do with many podcasts in the past. But sometimes I think you're able to take out different bits and pieces when you re-listen, and things do click as you re-listen. And um, yeah, no, I couldn't imagine a better conversation. I mean, they could have told me anything, I would have been I would have been satisfied with it. Able to ask the questions. And really, I had other questions written down, but as the conversation went on, there were things that piqued my interest, and I was just kind of drawn towards, and in terms of what might, you know, more people have questions about, and especially people listening to your podcast, people I know. What's the easiest way to help people digest this? That's just like the reoccurring theme in all of this.
Yeah. And you did a great job too. They were delighted with like all of the questions. They were like so eager, and they were like sending at some points too much information through. It was like my mouth only works like so fast. Yeah, they were delighted with all of the questions. And to have this conversation, which I definitely think was like divinely guided. I think this is all, like they said, like we're trying to get this information out there to more people, like through these experiences right now, which is so cool to be a part of, because it's almost like our mission, our destiny is fulfilled completely in this moment. And yet we can continue just like fulfilling and fulfilling and fulfilling the more that we want to do, as service to others beings. So for me, that's worth everything. I spent a lot of my life wondering, like, why am I here? What is the point of this? Spent many years in religion, feeling like fucking depressed at the thought of like, I'm either going to heaven to like sit for
Right.
eternity in boredom, or I'm going to hell. And to just remember the truth that, and I love what they said of like, you guys are here for the action, and when it's over, you're gonna go to the next action place. And I was like, that is so true. Like, I hadn't even thought of that. I really thought of the future of Earth as like, oh, I'm just gonna like keep coming back here and helping out and helping out. And they were like, no, you'll hear about something else happening on a different planet, and you'll be off to there to have fun, have experiences, drama. It's like, is it me? Am I the drama? And they're always like, yes, it's you. It's you. You're the drama. But it's fun. I love it. Yeah, thank you so much for being the interviewer. You were amazing. And, I feel like it just proved exactly why they chose you, and exactly why you felt drawn to call in the Pleiadians. And it was such a great conversation. And yet at the same time, it's also just the beginning. It's just the first one.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm so flattered and to be picked and honored to be a part of this and be able to facilitate these conversations. And my big takeaway from this, honestly, with all they had to say was, I feel like sometimes with the human experience, you can get like a little jaded, and you need like little things to remind you like why you are here, because in the day to day can be, pretty boring and with conflict and drama. But they reminded us that we chose the drama, and that's that's what we're here for.
Right. So, so true. And something I heard from Bashar today, like right before we started this, I was watching a Bashar video, and Bashar said, one of the great gifts I've been given by spirit is the remembrance that life is meaningless. We were created to give life meaning. And so it's like the potential is limitless. There's no judgment. Create what you want to create, experience what you want to experience. You're always going to be that moth drawn to the flame. You're always going to be moving towards source, no matter what direction you choose. And you having a good time and a positive experience and fun and, like they said, ecstatic bliss, like, that's the whole point, right? The point is for us to have an enjoyable experience, and we forget it a lot. I definitely do in this really kind of dense reality, but it is conversations like this that I remember fully, and I'm like, yeah, like I am gonna just like run outside and jump in the ocean or something and, like, live my life to the fullest. So, yeah, I love it. It's fun to be a human sometimes.
Right. No, times like this just remind me that like everyone who gets like tattoos and dyes their hair and like just, has crazy experiences and does what they want with their body and their life, as long as it's not harming other people, the shame should be dropped and the judgment should be dropped because why waste our energy and time?
Agreed. I love that. I love that takeaway.
Thank you again so much for having me be a part of this. And I'm so excited to do this again next time.
Me too. Absolutely.